Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today, I'm going to start this Bava Metzia daf Pei Vav. We're going to begin on the bottom of Pei Hamid Beis, 5 hours on the bottom. Shmuel Yarchim Yarich Na Asaya de Rabbi Havoy. So he was actually the doctor of Rabbi. Cholish Rabbi Be'enei, and Rabbi's eyes were sick. He wasn't feeling well. Amalei Imoli Lach Sama. So he says, I'm going to provide for you this medication. Amalei Yechilna Ishtar Lach Mishtar. So he says, I'm not able to smear this ointment on. Says Rashi, that even though it was supposed to be put b'toich ayin into the eye, shachlocha al gav ha'ayin. He was going to smear it on the eye, and he said that lo yechilna or lo yechilna havi moisif le beguvta the samane tute be sadia v'itase. So what he did, he says he should put it in a tube and put it under his pillow and his heel. Says Rashi, Tachas Meroshaisa Vovakir Kayach Chayzek Kasav Hoyach Derech Etzem Gulgulto Moicho and Enav. So he was able to somehow penetrate into his eye, and that was the way he was able to heal. Havika Mitzdayer Rebbe Lamis. So he was Mitzdayer, Rebbe was Mitzdayer. Says Rashi, Tarach Masasek L'Saimchai. This is referring to Shmuel. Afisha Chacham Baki Haya Kolkach, who's such an expert. V'Lahavia Mistayim Milsa. Says Rashi, Shahaisa Hashan the Terefaslo. It was very difficult for him. He was very preoccupied. Oh, Lo Haya Chachamim Nesafim. So Amulei Lo Litstayer Mar. Don't be upset. When did he Chazli Sifra the Adam Marisha, and I saw a sefer from Adam Marisha Mksimbe Shmuel Yarchina, and it's written regarding this person as we continue paying Bamon Aleph, Chacham Yiskarei. He is considered to be a great wise individual. But Rabbi Lo Yiskarei. Rabbi is not on this level, says Rashi. Sifra the Adam Rishon Sheheroha Kadosh Baruch Hu. Hashem showed him door of a cipher of door of darsh of door of chachamav the osu the Rabbi el yadai. Okay, Tehei Rabbi Rav Nasan Saif Mishnah Rav Ashi Ravina Saif Hayurah. Says Rashi, Zeg Kol Zeg Kosel Lasham. Everything was written over there, and he was able to extrapolate until the end of the Mishnah. Says Rashi, Sov Tanoim Al Yedehim Amr Ishas Davar. Bebeis Medrash, she said all these matters into the Beis Medrash, etc. The Simonech ad Avo el Mikdashi, until you come into my Mikdash, Kael Avina Lachrisam. I will bring it to your end. Omer Rav Kahane Shtoili Rav Chama Barbarte the Chasar the Chama. Rashi says, so we have the story that Rabba Bar Nachmani Agav Shemada Nachnavshe, that the great Rabba, the son of Nachmani, due to the fear of the government, it caused him ultimately to die. What happened? So Achu be Kurtza be Malka, that he was being slandered by these individuals. And before we continue, a little Rashi over here, it says V'simonachad Abu el Mikdashi Kael Mikdashe Simonad Ravashi. The Mikdash is Simon Ravashi. Avina Simonad Ravina. Lachrisam Simon Seif Hara. Okay. Anyway, so what happened? Machmas Amos Malchos Mace, because he was afraid of the king and the government, that Rabbi ended up dying. So what happened? So you had an individual who was slandering the Rabbi to the king. Amr Ikachad Gavra Bihudoi. There was a Jew that come Mavatal Trei Sar Alfi Gavrim Yisrael, who is Mavatal. Says Rashi, Shemis Kamsin Elu Benisim Tishrei Lishmo Drasha Shel Pesach Shel Chagim. She's getting all these different people to gather together a couple times a year, all the Jews. So all of a sudden there's a monthly tax, a head tax. They're not there because they're in this guy's shear. And this was obviously a big problem, because what's going on? This person is holding back taxes of the king. he was just teaching them Torah, but this is the slander that was being said. Yarcha b'kaita v'yarcha b'sitva. A month in the summer and a month in the fall, which basically is referring to, again, Pesach and Sukkot. Mikarga de Malka, from paying the taxes. So Shadra Puristika de Malka, so the Shliach, this individual who was in charge overseeing the government affairs, went Basre after Envelashche, didn't find Rabbi. So Arak V'Ozal Pomadisa Arka. So Rabbi was just running from one place to the next. From Pomadisa to Arkam, Mi Arka Agma, Agma Shichin, Umishichin Lasrifa, Masrifa, Laena Damayim, Midar Mayim, Pomadisa, but Pomadisa Ashche. So he was going from all these different places. Actually, he was in Pumbedisa. Then it says he basically went back to Pumbedisa, and there he was found as he was in some type of an inn or hotel. Ikla psiktik the malka lahu shpiza the rabba. So this government official ended up being in the same inn as Rabba. Karivu taka kamei. They brought a table in front of him. Ve'ashkuhu trei kasi. And he drank 2 cups, which is okay, as the Gemara in Pesachim talks about at the end of the Masechta, the issue of zugos. Actually, it's not okay. Having pairs is a problem. Says Rashi, "Shenem umonim al zugos mazikin es a shaisa zugos minihabayis lo nischad lokach." So whenever you are engaged in pairs, it becomes problematic. V'daluho lataka mikmei. And they removed the table from him, which means again he's stuck at this zugos. That this pair, and then when you hit that, so the shadim are powerful. Hadar partsufe lachure, his face turned backward. It was like you can imagine the poltergeist scene. Amrule, my navidle, what should we do? Gavida malkahu. So we're going to get in trouble now, as this person's face turned backwards. Shamulhu kriva taka kamei. Put the table in front of him. Vyashkuhu chadkas, and give him another cup. Vyadil lataka mikamei veli tasi. So they put the table and they gave him another drink, and therefore it was no longer sugos, so it was fine. Abdulay hachi viatasi. So they did this and was healed. Obviously, the fact, this is unbelievable. The fact that this guy was actually saved. Well, instead of him showing gratitude and appreciation, he said, "Oh, it must be that there's someone who's an expert over here. It must be maybe someone like a rabbi was here." So Bacha Shabasre, he searched after him. Ashki found him. Amra Zilna Maha. She says, "I'm leaving." Imikdal Katlu Ahugavra Lo Magalina. She says, "If I kill this person referring to himself, then I will not be exiled." The negide menagdin le megalina, but if he tortures me, then it will. So what exactly does this mean? Says Rashi. So it says v'im yasruni bisurim agala, because torture is worse than death in certain respects. Aisula kemei aile liidura v'tarkil Bava be'anpe. So basically he went. And he was hiding in this particular room, in this chamber, and he closed the door. Ba rachame parakashisa. So Rabba asked for mercy, and the wall crumbled down. Arik ve'ozal la'agmi, he was able to escape and go into the swamp. Hami Yosef a girda de dikula, and he was sitting on the stump of a date palm tree. Because Gairis, Rabba's learning Torah. There's this big machlokes in the yeshiva above in the Shemayim regarding saras. If the stain on the skin comes before the white hair, then it's tahar. Tame before. However, if the white hair comes before the stain on the skin, so then he's tahar. Savik of Kodesh Baruch Hu. Oimer tahar v'kuhu misifta dirakia imri tame. So he had this machlokes between apparently HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the whole yeshiva. So the amri man noivach, who will resolve this machlokes? So Novach Rabba bar Nachmani. Let's gather Rabba, have him come to the Shemayim. He can resolve this issue. Rabba bar Nachmani ani yachid ben negoyim ani yachid bo halois. Basically saying that he was like an expert in these fields. So Shada Shlicha Basra, he sent the messenger to basically bring him up to die. He wasn't able to get hold of Rabba. We'll find this also by David Melch. If you're constantly learning Torah, so the Malach HaMavos has no shlita over you. In the meanwhile, Nashav Zika ve'avish beni kani. There was this wind that made noise between the reeds. So Rabba thought that Gunda de Parashihu. He thought an army was coming to take him away. Better that this person's neshama should be taken away, referring to himself. Better than being taken over to the malchus. To kihavi ka naicha navshe kihavi ka naicha navshe oimer tahar yatzabaskol yemashrecha rabba bar nachman shegufla tahar v'yatzas nishmascha b'tahar. So at the moment that he said tahar is when he died, which was referring to the discussion in the Rikiya of whether or not this is considered to be saras, which is tameh or tahar, and he said tahar. And we see from here that it's not a coincidence that when he said the word tahar, he died, which means that he died with the element of purity. That's the idea behind that. How praiseworthy is not Rabba, his body is pure, and his neshama left with tahar. And there was a note that came from the Rikiya. Pomadisa, quote, Rabba bar Nachmani nisbakish b'yeshiva shomayla. He was requested into this yeshiva above. Nafko Abai v'Rabba v'kulhu Rabbanan v'Yasuki Bey. So Abai and Rabba went everyone went out to be involved in this matter. So yadi dochta, but they didn't know where he died. They understand that obviously it means that Rabba died, but they didn't know where. So Azal Agmi went to the swamp Chaza, and they saw Sipare de Metale v'Kaima, that there were these birds that were in this shade. They were creating some type of a shade with their wings. Amr Shmamina Hasamhu, must be that there are birds here. Must be that's where Rabba's remains are. Safduhu Tlasiyem Tlasal Leil Vasa. They gave a 3-day eulogy. Then Nafal Pska, another note came that said Kol Hapayr Shehi Benidoi. Anyone who separates should be excommunicated. Savtu Shiva Yomi. So they eulogized him for 7 days. Nafal Piska, another note came out and said, now you can go in peace. So basically, they had to make sure that the eulogy was appropriate. The day that he died, Rabbi died, Dali Zayafa, there was this mighty wind. Vidari Lahu Taya, and there was this merchant. Kirachav Gam was riding a camel. Mihagisa Danar Papa Vishadi Bahakisa. It was such a powerful wind, he was basically thrown to the other side of the river, which was a very unusually powerful wind. Amr Mai. So this man said, what's going on over here? Why are these winds so powerful? Because Rabba died. I know the whole world is yours. Rabba bar Nachmani didach, and Rabba is also yours. At de Rabba v'Rabba didach, you are beloved, and the Rab and the beloved is to you. Says Rashi, Ata ohavo shel Rabba. I know you love Rabba, and Rabba loved you. Amaika mecharebes le'alma. But still, why is this a reason for you to destroy the world? So nach zafa. Ultimately, that caused that the winds stopped. Rabbi Shimon bar so that's the story of Rabba. Rabbi Shimon bar Chalafta Bal Basar Havi. So why do we need to know that he was a Bal Basar? So Taisa says, Mishum Rabbi Lezer Rabbi Shimon Dahavi Bal Basar Nakanami Hai Uvda. So we've been mentioning past couple of blood about Rabbi Lezer Rabbi Shimon the Rashbi's son, who was a Baal Basar, Rabbi Yochanan was a Baal Basar. So also we're going to talk about this story of Rav Shimon bar Chalafta, also was a Baal Basar, was a heavy-set man. So what happened? Yom Echad, one day, Havi Chamimale, it was very hot. Havi Solch v'Yosef Ashina the Torah. So he went and he sat by in the coolness of a mountain because the air would help him out. So he said to his daughter, Biti, my daughter, Ha nifi alai bim nifa, blow unto me with this blower, the ani etin lech kikarin de nerd, and I'm going to give you a certain amount of bundles of this fragrance as a reward. In the meanwhile, Nosh Bazika, the wind blew. How much fragrance we should be providing to Hashem, because sometimes Hashem does things for us in which we're going to spend a lot of money to do, but Hashem protected us and caused me, in this case, to be cooled off, and therefore I would owe it to God, basically. Okay, let's look at question TA12. What did he say tahar when he was dying? So the answer is, we mentioned, Safek B'Negoyim, if there's a doubt, Im Beharis Kadma Oser Lovin Kaidim, we don't know which came first, so then he says it's a tahar. When it comes to that, the din is, we'll just assume tahar. Okay. So we had a couple of blot of Agadata, which was nice after Eis and Neshach, but now we're going to continue reminding ourselves of the mission that we had before, which is Hakol Kamina Kamadina. So let's find somewhere where this Mishnah is. So this actually takes us all the way to the beginning of the parak of Asaychas Poalim. So again, you hired workers, and so the Mishnah began that said if you had them work extra hours. So we said Makam Shnag Shalul Hashim Harith in Rishayul Kaifin. If the hours are north of 9 to 5, you can't have them working more than those hours. So he said that's pretty obvious. Okay, so Gemara asked that kasha, and this is Makam Shnag Lazun Yazun. If you have a minute to feed them, to provide them matika, like or relish, yisapik, you have to do that. And then Zakol Kiminag Medina, that's the minhag. Then it quotes a story of Yochid ben Metzia that told his son to hire workers, and he said that you should have a certain amount of food, and then he went to his father and said, even if even if you gave them this huge meal, you haven't fulfilled your obligation because they're b'nei Avraham Yitzchak Yaakov. However, says this is the Mishnah on Pegam Umanal. Before they started working, say ve'emer lehem nashin lechem olayel pas v'kitnis bovad. I'm only going to give you bread and beans. Okay. So on this, the Gemara wonders, my lasuye. It says hakol lasuye mai. It's all according to the custom. So lasuye ba'asra denihigi michrach rifta umishne anafka. It's referring to a city in which we have that they provide, says Rashi, Lamare Dichi, Anafka, Kli Machsek Revius. So you have this Kli that's able to hold a certain amount of liquid and a certain amount of food. So if that is the norm, and if you say that you should, I'm going to provide this for you, Amrulo, they can say to him, Lo kol kuminach. Okay, so what exactly is being said over here? So Taisus helps us out with two pshatim. Perish. I omer kadimu hashkim ma'os hashachar. I want you to get up before the morning. The aisiluchu rifta. I'm going to give you bread, v'anafka, which said some drink. Votis batel b'malachtam. I'd rather you eat early, and I'll feed you, so that when the day comes, you're not going to have to be interrupted from your work. So Amrulay, they can say, lo, we're going to start eating in the morning, and then we'll do the work. That's what it means. This is what the Gemara says. I'm going to feed you early, they can say lo kol kaminach. You don't have the ability to do that. Alternatively, another pshat in Taisus, he says, Po'alam hoyelehem le'echel rivta o anapka bebeisa shel bal habayis koidim shias melacha. They would eat and drink in the house of the bal habayis before they would do work. If you said al tisbatlu, don't stop your work. Ela l'chu atabisa, to go to the field now. Kolzman shena ma'ichem azumin, because the food's not ready anyway in my house. The sham avil lachem rivta v'anpak, and I'll bring you pretty soon, as soon as the food is ready, food into the field. Amrulei lo el ata noichel babayis. We want to eat in your house. So even though it's not ready, it's just too bad. Okay, so the Gemara wonders, Maser Rabbi Yochanan ben Metzia, Shemer Mulvno says Chor v'chulu. Uchartz a Maisa lister, says Rashi. V'chi derech b'nei adam l'havi Maisel davar musaisro. How could the story come to contradict what we said before? Because we said before, Kol Kinah Medina, they have to do whatever the custom is. And then we have a story, says Rashi, I feel ata oiselahem consider shloimai, that even if they're supposed to have a big meal, you only have to give them bread and kidneys. That's a masa lister. So Hachi Katani, the Pasak Lahen Mazainis, as we continue to pay Bamud Bays, that if you would designate food for them, Ribulahem, then you have to give them more than the normal amount. Masanami, Rabbi Yochanan ben Metzia, Shem Livnot, says Scharolonu Pualim, go and hire workers, Holach Pasak Lahen Mazainis, and he set a certain amount of food. Even if you gave them this great meal, you haven't fulfilled your obligation. So, what does that mean? Says Rashi, you actually have to give them more than what the custom is. Why did you make this condition? Why did you say, I'm going to give you food? We already know that, because that's the minhag. The fact that you said it, you said more than you had to. And therefore, probably what we're saying is they have to give them more food because of this. And therefore, that's what's come to tell you. Now, it says that they're like, Avraham Yitzchak Yaakov. Lememra, this sudas Avraham Avinu Adifa Mit Shlomo. It sounds like Avraham's meal is greater than Shlomo Melech. Boksiv. But regarding Shlomo's meal, it says, "Vahi lechem Shlomo," the bread of Shlomo, l'yoyim echad, for one day, shloishim kor soilus, was 30 kor of fine flour, v'shishim kor kamach, and 60 kor of this other flour, asor bakar brim, 10 healthy cattle, v'asor bakar re'i, and 10 other cattle, umeyat sayin, 100 sheep, lavad ma'ayil tzvi, not including the ram and the deer, the yachmor uvar burim avusim. So we see clearly this is an unbelievable amount of food. The Yomer Gurian ben Astayoin Mishmei Rav, he said the halalu la'amilon shel tabachim. This flour was used just to cover the pot, says Rashi. Chalos asus l'chasos piakadera, lishev zuhamois hatfilos. So it's so much more than even that. This is actually, says Rashi, kadera eno el lemin Michael shemot sika kadera. The Yom Rabbi Yitzchak elef noshim, 1,000 women hayu shlomo kol achas v'achas aslabesa bevesa kach. Each one of them, this was what was done in their house. It wasn't just one person that made this for Shlomo, it was 1,000. My timer, because Zeus for Hashem etzli soidayon. Zeus for Hashem etzli soidayon. None of them knew when Shlomo was going to come to them. So therefore, they always would prepare a big meal in case today was the day. Vilgavi Abraham Ksiv doesn't say that much. It says, Ve'el habakar ratz Abraham, that to a cattle, Abraham went quickly. V'yikach ben bakar rach v'toiv. He certainly got good food. Yom Rabbi Yehuda Marav ben Bakar echad v'rach shnayim v'toiv shloisha. So he had 3. Now 3 is still impressive, but it certainly isn't compared to the suit of Shlomo. So hasam tlasa Torah with tlasa Gabri. Let's not forget, we were only talking about 3 angels, or he appeared like people. So he took 3 oxen, 3 big animals, just for 3 people. Each one got their own. Hachal chol Yisrael v'Yehuda. However, this meal, even though it sounds like it's a lot, but it's because there was a lot more people. They're compared to the sand in the sea. So obviously there was more food, but still proportionally, Abraham's meal per person was more. What does it mean? I didn't translate this. Barburim avusim. What does that mean? So Amarav she'oivsim oisim bar karcha. That says Rashi. What does that mean? She'oivsim bar karchan tochavin lahem meichel bepihem b'chazaka. That they're actually like force feed these people to eat. Shmuel Omer shavusim oimdim me'alehen. No, actually, they went and fed on their own. Rav Yochanan Amar Mevin Toyer Mimaritu, that they brought an ox from its pasture, Medul Onis, that did not work, the Tarnagailos me Ashbasa, and a hen from its coop, Meduloi Anisa, that again it didn't work. And these were free-ranged animals. Amar Rav Yochanan Muvchar Shebehemo Shor. The greatest of all the animals, domestic animals, is an ox. Mochash of oifos, Tarnagailos is a hen. Amar Meimar Zugsa Uchmasa, a black hen, Be Batnisa Dimishtakcha Beni Atzre. Dol Metzia Pasid Kanya. That due to this black hen, due to its large stomach, it's not able to step over reeds. Basically, it means because they're so heavy. It says Rashi, because they're so big and fat, so they're not able to even walk over reeds. El Bakar Ratzav Hamam Rabbi Yehuda Marav Ben Bakar Echad Rach Shnayim V'Tayv Shlosh had three. Ve'em Echad, maybe it was only one. Kedamri Inshi Rachach V'Tav. Same Kalichtav. The pasuk should have written Rach V'Tayv. My V'Tayv Shema Minol with the Rasha. So the fact that it has a vav, it's coming to tell you the Takla was three. Aim a tray, maybe it was just two. Midatoy with the Rasha, Rachnam with the Rasha. So therefore it must be three. Meisiv Rabba Bar Ula, and he asked this question. V'Tema, some say it was Rabbi Yishia. V'Tema, some say it was Rabbi Nassan, Rabbi Yishia. What was the question? The pasuk says by Avraham V'Yiten El Hanar that he gave it to the child. V'Yamar Lasois Oisai, and he was quick to do Oiso, it. Now it doesn't sound like there was many of them, it sounds like there was only one. The answer is no, Kol Chad V'Chad, Yehoiv L'Nar Chad. That each one he gave to one Nar. So it's not that he gave, that it was only one, but he gave them to different young. V'yikach Chama B'Chal V'ben HaBakar Asher Asa V'Yitin Lifneim. And it says that he took the cream and the milk, Uben HaBakar, and the bakar is one cattle, and which he took V'Yitin Lifneim. So how can you tell me those three? So the answer is the Kama Damatya Asila Kamayu, that when each one was finished first, it was brought before him. But really, they weren't all done at the same time, so that's why it says Uben Bakar, because he received one cattle, and he dealt with preparing it, and then he had a second one come and a third. Understand, there's only three people. Okay, again, he thought there were people, but it's a huge animal. Why would you think that you need an animal per person? So Rav Chanan Barabba, this is also found in Rashi and Chumash, that he should be able to provide each of them a tongue of the cow. A person should never deviate from the custom of whatever it may be. Because Moshe Rabbeinu, when he went to Har Sinai, he didn't eat any food. However, when the Malchei Sharis came, they did eat. So even though humans normally eat, but when you're in the Shemayim or by Har Sinai, which was close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so you didn't eat, and so the Malchei Sharis did eat. So again, this is also Rashi says this in Chumash. It's not that they actually ate, but it appeared like they were eating. Whatever Avraham did for the Malchei Sharas himself, Hashem also did for the Klal Yisrael himself. Whatever Avraham did with a shliach, so Hashem also did with a shliach. From the schus that Avraham himself was running to get the cattle, Hashem. It says that there was a wind that came from Hashem. This is referring to the Slavs. As Rashi goes, Slavim. So Hashem himself provided the quail. That Avraham provided the cream and milk. So Hashem in turn himself provided bread from the heavens, the mon. So Avraham was standing in front of them under the tree. So Hashem also is, so to speak, overseeing us as well. And Avraham went with them to send them. So Hashem also goes in front of us. However, when it comes to a shliach, he said, go and get a little bit of water. So because of that, so because of that, Hashem also provided a shliach, namely Moshe, to provide water. This is actually machlokas. The Yomi Rav Chama bar Chanina v'chin Tanamei b'Shmuel b'schar shloisha zaychel shloisha. From the reward of three things, of doing three things, we are zaycha 3. B'schar chama v'chal. The fact that Avraham provided cream and milk, zachul aman. Therefore, we're zaycha to the man. B'schar v'hu oimid aleihem. That Avraham stood over these 3 guests. Zochel Almoid Hanan. Therefore, we're Zoicha, the cloud of glory protected us. B'schar Yukach Namad Mayim, about the water, Zochel Ber Shel Miriam. We're Zoicha to the well of water. Yukach Namad Mayim Rachatzu Ragleichem. So he said, go and wash your hands. Amr Rav Yanim Rabbi Shmuel, Amru Lavachi Ba'arvim Chashad Tanu. You consider us like these people, Shehem Mishtachvim Abak Ragleichem, that we worship the dust of our feet. Kvar Yatzim Emenu Yishmael. And then what ended up happening? Came from them Yishmael, which came from him Yishmael. In other words, his own son does this. So why are you suspecting strangers when you have these issues in your own family, which is an unbelievable thing? You have an issue of what other people are doing. Why don't you see what you're doing in your own house? So it was very hot. This was actually the 3rd day after Abraham's bris milah, when he was 99. So Hashem actually went to greet him to as like a form of Bikur Chaylim. So Hashem, so to speak, took the sun out of its container, made it ultra hot, so that no guests would come because it would be too hot for anyone to travel. So Abraham sent Eliezer to go and to see if there was anyone out there. He saw there was no one there. He says that you don't have faithfulness ba'avdi in your servant. Nafik ihu. So Abraham went out himself. Chazak Kadosh Baruch Hu dekaya Bava, that he was by the door. Al not taver mel avdecha. Do not pass before your servant. Kivan dechaz the asar v'shari. Once he started taking off bandages, Amru lava arach aru lamekum hacha. This is, it's not proper for him to do this. Okay, that's the reason why Hashem said, you know what? It's clear that, he's in greater elements of dismay, that he's taking off his bandages. So Rashi, asar Abraham es milaso v'shari. Amr lavarach ar lamekim hacha. He shouldn't be getting up like this. To v'yar v'yaretz l'krasim. It says that he went and ran after to greet them. So what does that mean? So Mikara, originally asu kamu ale. Originally they were right near him. He was right near them. Ki chayzuhu dahavi katsara. Once they saw that he was in pain, Amr, they said lavarach ar lamekim hacha. It's not good for us to come here, and therefore he had to pursue them because they were basically acting not to bother him. So Manhu Shloisha Nashim, who are these three people? They really were angels. Michael, Gabriel, Raphael. So what was the purpose of having three angels? Michael, Shibol Vaser Sarah. Michael, his purpose was to let him know that Sarah is going to have a child. Raphael, which has to do with Refuah, of healing, the angel of healing, Shibol Rapias Abraham. He came to heal Abraham. Gabriel represents strength, like Gevura, Azul Lamehevche L'Stoim. So his purpose was to destroy Sodom. There's actually two angels that came to Sodom, Be'erev. Yazam Michael Bahadei de Shezve L'Loit. So the reason why is because Michael went to save Lot. They can have a say Es Ha'arim, that he turned over the cities. So the truth is, it was Gabriel who was involved in the destruction, but it was Michael who was to save Lot. Again, the purpose of Raphael in general is healing people. And then the purpose of the angel Michael in general is to provide salvation, either to save someone like saving Lot, or for Sarah to have a child. But Gabriel, which represents Gevur and power and strength, is sometimes destruction, and that's what Gabriel did. He destroyed Sodom. So how come when it came to Abraham, the angels basically said, yeah, we'll do whatever you want, we'll listen to you. But when it came to Lot, as we continue to pay Zaman Aleph, it says he had to push them to come. Says Rash, so what is the reason for that? Why didn't they listen to Lot immediately? This is going to be question 8, that when it comes to someone who is a katan, you don't have to accept their wishes immediately. However, when it comes to a gadol, you have to listen to them immediately. And therefore, because of that, when Abraham offered them to stay, they weren't able to disagree. However, when it came to Lot, they didn't have to be so quick to accept it. But again, Lot pushed, and there ultimately they accepted. Question 8. So as we just said, that they decided to go to Abraham immediately, because it says but by Lot it says So again, when it comes to someone who is very great, who insists that you do something, you should listen to them right away. However, when it comes to someone who's a katan, someone who's not as chashuv, someone who's like a Lot, so they didn't have to listen to him, but eventually they ended up being, so to speak, persuaded, and they ended up going. Of course, we have to understand that this is perhaps the whole reason why this was to see was Lot's sincerity of actually wanting to accept guests, even in a place like Sodom where they despised having guests. And perhaps it was together with, of course, the schus of Avraham Avinu, but also the fact in this merit, it was a way that he would be able to be spared. Ad kan.